And thank you for braving this wonderful weather. I'm sure it's just due to get worse before it gets better.
Oh, is it?
There's
Yeah,
weather
just got a
warnings.
yellow warning. Did you?
Yeah, so
Beginning of it.
so we just brace ourselves for that. I've already took provisions, took the canopy off my gazebo before it blows away. So all prepared.
Batten down the hatches.
Batten down the hatches, yeah. So I suppose if we just take a moment and if we would like to, or somebody would like to light the chalice candle. No, well done. So it projects a little bit of warmth as we look at the candle. It's sort of nice in this autumn type of time. So a few words. We each seek a light in every corner, in every word and in every connection with each other. Today we look for it in the words we hear and speak. And may this light be one of comfort and peace, bringing us awareness of our inner self as we share in our worship today. And so to warm us up, we all go into a song. So, get the lungs going, get some heat generated. So, a core of silence. A nice and short hymn there, just to get us going and get us into this this nice autumn morning. So the living word, we all have different perceptions of what that might mean. So I hope to go through a few ideas of what that means to me and how we live that, and as well as every day we read and project that. So words can be a wonderful communication tool, and it can also be very confusing. Words in different languages can mean many different things, and I'm conscious of this when I'm writing technical reports. So I try and keep the words I use simple, which is then as a less possibility of being misinterpreted. So a lot of people who read technical reports, as an engineer, a lot of people read these which are from different countries. And not that I have a big repertoire of long words or anything, but it still can be confusing. You look into a dictionary and try and look up what a word means, and it has quite often very different meanings. So they say English can be one of the hardest to learn, albeit quite often a universal language, which is quite interesting in itself. So over the past few years, I've partaken in a process which allows the deepest part of myself to come to the surface and communicate in a way that I wouldn't normally. Which leads to conscious and unconscious writing, which is an interesting process. Writing to create a working document or for creative content can be done consciously with an analytical mind, or you can write with a subconscious mind, or what I like to call connection to a higher state of being, or a higher state of mind. I find this to be more eloquent than my normal way of working. It's a bit like when I write and get inspiration. Writing comes naturally in this state of creativity. I've got somebody heckling in the background. I don't know what you said, but I'll just continue.
It's fine.
If I think about it too much, I find that I can say one thing, but deep down I believe in another. There can be a conflict in what I say and what I mean to say. It's like saying to yourself, there's no need to be anxious or nervous about something you are about to do. And there can be many reasons why that is. It's a small group of friends. If it's a small group of friends, it's a subject I know well. There's no judgment for making mistakes. Even though I may tell myself this, my body will still show the signs of anxiety. This is just one example. I can convince myself all I want, and the body will inwardly come out with something which is contrary to what I am telling myself, which can be frustrating. I'm quite fascinated how you can read a sentence many times and get many different ways of understanding its message. And we see this in scriptures all the time. I believe that we hold a certain energy within us and are influenced through our environment, emotionally and psychologically. This can influence how we react to something, depending on these circumstances. I also think that we can connect with something greater than ourselves, our physical selves. We connect with our higher awareness, and the results of this can be quite remarkable. I did an 11-week course called Write Yourself Free. It was a course by Julia Fahrenbecker, and it was wonderful. So I did this through my training. We had to give ourselves little projects, so this was one that I gave myself. So I'm going to read a little bit from the process, and then I'm going to read a couple of poems, if you like, prose, which I wrote from doing this process, just so you can see how this might work. Here's the truth, beautiful one. You are a miracle. You are one of a kind, absolutely, totally unique. Yes, sometimes you make giant messes. Sometimes you're cranky and you mean you're absolutely not unique or special in this way. You are human after all. But beneath all the messy, beautiful layers of pain and regret, I am not enoughs. You are light and love. You truly are a magnificent, astonishingly divine light. The sooner you realize this and know this, the sooner you can breathe, really breathe and live, and love wide open. So this thing is called Breathe. That's the heading or the theme. This week and beyond, I invite you to notice each time the thought of I'm not enough comes up for you. I'm not doing enough. Notice when you speak unkindly to yourself. Simply notice and gently, softly shift your attention from not enough to it's about showing up with love for yourself and for others. Just love, replacing your unkind thoughts with loving kindness, just for you. So then we would have a mindful mantra throughout the week, and so this first week it was, I am enough just as I am, which it's nice to have this mantra just to keep reaffirming to yourself that you are enough in life. And so the weekly prompt for this writing process was, I love you because, and you fill in the blanks. So you direct your beautiful, just right self into this process. Breathe deeply and drop quietly into the center of yourself. So these are the instructions. Set the timer for 10 minutes. Keep your hand moving. Feel free to write the worst junk ever, as author Natalie Goldberg likes saying. Remember, there are no rules, no way. Just keep your hand moving. If you get stuck and no words are coming, try writing this. What I really mean to say is. This is a great way to restart and often drops you to a deeper place. If your writing wants to take you away from the prompt, let it take you. Let your pen go wherever it wants to go. The point of free writing is to let yourself be free. So this is what I did, and I settled myself down. And this is what I wrote. I love you because you have a desire to see good in this world. You go about life not realizing that your every interaction brings a holy communion between you and the people you meet. There are moments which you believe that you are hindering your goals, your dreams, or your journey that you see others on. But it is all through design. Don't linger on the words you didn't say, or the actions you wished you had taken. There is purpose in everything. Leave all that has gone before behind you, and welcome all that comes your way. You cannot control other people's perceptions, but you can change yours to see the good, the spirit in every moment, and that spirit of goodness and God is within you, part of you. With this thought comes unity. This is the light you bring by being you, to Gary from the spirit within. So I wrote that, it's like a message to myself. So this is what I mean by connecting to the higher self. I didn't know I was going to write that or what was going to come out of that. It was just like a message to me, encouragement to keep going, keep doing what I wanted to do. And sometimes the what I see or perceive can be one thing, but what is actually happening might be another. So the idea is just to leave it as it is. So so then I went through this course, and there was another. So there's 11 sessions in total, and wrote lots of beautiful things. It's always difficult to show people or present things like this because you don't know how this comes across, the things that you write or how eloquent that is, and so it becomes quite difficult. But these words I left raw, unchanged, and so I'll take you to the end of this 11-week course. And the prompt was, I love, and that was it. So I sat down with my pen, gave myself 10 minutes, and this is what I wrote. I love the flowers in bloom, the clouds that passes by. I love the inner thought for someone else. I love the sharing that makes the heart melt. When all is forgotten and the expansiveness come by, and the moment felt in eternity, in this I lie. What blissful state I am in, with nothing to fear and nothing to win. Just being who I am without thought of anything. I love the water as it flows, and the stream that comes and goes, the coolness of its touch and the healing of its love. The communication with all things, speaking freedom from within. What wonder there is in everything. And for a moment I sit and take it all in. Thank you for this deliverance. As the veil becomes thin, the whole world is a brand new place. Now heaven can be seen on earth. Love is. So that was what came from keeping my pen moving. As I say, unedited, this is how it unfolded for me in that 10 minutes. I just love that process, and we've used it in several meetings and different, while I was doing the training. So if you ever get the opportunity, I recommend doing something like that. So with that, we can go into our next hymn. Blessed Spirit of my life. Every scripture was communicated while being inspired in some way, and each time we read it, we can see different connections to the words. This then carries on to any word in any book, so I believe. We bring our emotional and intellectual state of beingness to understand what we are receiving. Is there any wonder that we often interpret what we read for our own ends, which can lead to misunderstanding, extremism, and acts that do not have love at the heart of its intention? On the other hand, it can be a source of inspiration and bring people and communities and even countries together in peace. A good speech can be like electricity running through the crowd that are gathered, creating a positive impact for the benefit of everyone who is hearing the message. Now, you think of great speakers like Martin Luther King, or great orators like Barack Obama, for instance, who had control of the United States as president. But we can also give inspirational speeches if we just open ourselves up to that moment. I started to learn Hebrew many moons ago. Very, very difficult when I don't know any other language. And I thought it'd be nice just to read some scripture in a different language. So I chose Hebrew. A very interesting language. I didn't get very far, I must admit. Some words and symbols are used in many different ways. And the Torah, the Jewish Bible, is an interesting book that can communicate on many levels. Each letter in the Jewish alphabet has a specific meaning and assigned a specific number. Each letter in the Jewish alphabet has a specific meaning and assigned a specific number. There are 22 letters in the alphabet, and in Jewish mysticism, it is believed that these are letters of power and can be used for creation. Just like God created the world and the universe, so these letters can also be used in a particular way. That's why in some of these Jewish mystic kind of readings, they say you have to be careful on the words that you use, because each letter has very specific meaning of power. Again, very interesting kind of delve into that side of things. Another interesting aspect is the Bible Code. I don't know if you've heard of it. A book written by Michael Drosnin, who believes that everything that ever was and ever will be is written in the Torah. Which is hard to believe, but bear with me. It is encoded and can be decoded by using an algorithm called equidistant letter sequencing. So you take a letter, you skip a few letters, and then you record it, and you do every other number. So it is a complex system where messages appear in the Torah a bit like a word search. They can be seen diagonally, vertically, or horizontally in any combination. So it makes it hard to sort of see a pattern. But what you find is a message together in an area in the Torah. So they're in any combination and grouped together. So they deliver a message in all. Because these messages do not appear in the same way that we might ordinarily read a book, it makes it hard to see predictions unless you understand the letters you are trying to associate together in a particular grouping. But past events can all be more easily identified if you know the series of letter grouping. So your name and date of birth all appear in the Torah, apparently. You might think it hard to believe that it could contain so much data in such a book. The algorithm used allows for billions of potential combinations, which we would be capable of holding every bit of information that we are aware of today. This is still not accepted by a lot of academics, but the outputs do come with some remarkable results. As far as I'm aware, the algorithm has not been successful with any other book, which again makes it very interesting. Who knows if more research has gone into this in secret because of the potential claims. I will leave that for you to research and find out. But the idea of that is very interesting. So you can imagine if something could tell the future, it would be squirreled away in some government agency, probably. Never let the algorithm free. But I don't know what today, if you was to look at that today, what that might bring. But Michael Drosnin obviously believes in it, and he actually approached Netanyahu a few years back, saying there was going to be a great war, and tried to give him advance warning that it was not going to end well. Of course, he disbelieved that and didn't take any notice. But as we find today, we are in a war. Whether that was a prediction or just a natural state of things happening, who knows? But there we go. Another interesting play on words is palindromes, as you may know. Take a word and spell it backwards, and it says the same word, such as Eve, E-E, same forwards or backwards. I is the same. But you see that in scriptures. In fact, you can find whole sentences done in this way. I was going to try and find one for you today, but I wish I had been there. It would have been give it more credibility. But you can find this in the Torah, in the Quran, and in the Bible, and probably other scriptures. Palindromes are not unique in singular, but when you start to use them together, it becomes a rather interesting concept. And you got to wonder, did somebody meaningfully put them in these books or scriptures or words, sentences, or was it an accident? Who knows? But they are there. So I like the play on words. I'm not a great wordsmith or orator in any way, but I just find it interesting. So another thing I'm going to now deliver to you here is it's a Hawaiian prayer. It's Ho'oponopono. It took me a few attempts to say. But it's a prayer, or it's a mantra that is said. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a doctor, Dr. Hugh Len. And this became more famous because of what he did one time. He looked through the files of certain patients. So he went into a hospital, he looked through these files. and looked at the files of each patient, because it was a mental hospital. And he never actually saw the patients, but while reviewing each person's record, he would chant a mantra, or this mantra, over each individual file. Which you think a bit odd, a doctor goes and supposed to see his patients, but he never went and saw one. And these are the words that he would say. After looking at the picture, he would say, "I love you. I am sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you." So these are positive words, and I like to think he was connecting in a deeper level, not just at the person and the individual, but how he might judge and see them. He didn't really know them. But there was a perception, obviously, he was in that place for a particular reason. And maybe he was trying to see beyond that illness and see them as whole. So I thought that very interesting. Dr. Hugh then did this over and over for months. Shortly thereafter, previously shackled patients were allowed to walk freely. Other patients were taken off their medications. And soon all of the patients were healed and released back into society. Wow. Now, was this a one-off? I've not done enough research, but it's something that's actually happened. You think, well, why didn't I do that? Keep doing that. Why don't we all do that? But, it's a deep-seated belief. As I said before, you can tell yourself one thing, but your inner heart or your subconscious may believe in something else. And so sometimes you're in conflict with yourself. So it takes true belief in yourself and in what you're saying, what you're doing, to make positive effects and changes. What's interesting about this is Dr. Hugh Len didn't ask the patients to repeat the mantra themselves, didn't see the patients even, other than through a photograph. Rather, he believed that because we all share an energy and connection to each other, we ourselves have the ability to impact that energy positively or negatively for everyone else. We all have the power to attract healing by our own will, motivations, and desire. So by choosing to act on the one thing he could control, which was himself, his humility ultimately led to healing those he's trying to connect with. In this case, the patients in the hospital. It may seem hard to believe, and yet here we have the evidence. So obviously this is very, very popular story, especially in the circles I am in. And it is used, or being used, in healing circles and in healing gatherings to the same effect. So it does work if we give it a chance to let it work. I don't know if you ever come across it, I have or ever will, but if you hear the words "ho, up and up and all," you'll know what it all means. So the living word. We look at the Sikh faith and we see this presented in what they believe. The Guru Granth Sahib, which is the Sikh scriptures, is considered the 11th Guru, a living Guru. It is a collection of poems, hymns, and wise sayings which not only contains writings from the Sikh Gurus themselves, the previous 10, but also includes writing from other different faith origins. After having 10 physical gurus to guide the Sikh people, it was considered that they had all they needed in the Granth Sahib. There are still spiritual leaders which have a place in these communities, but the scripture is treated with respect and honour, as such as you would give to a living guru. In this way, the words are read, which I read, are done with reverence and respect. There's real freedom in the scriptures, but it ultimately guides the seekers to believe that there is one God who is present in all things and can be experienced through contemplation and service, and the goal is to develop a consciousness of God. So they take their scripture and they put it away each night, and it comes out again when they need it. But this is not particular to the Sikh community. The Jewish community also, the same kind of thing. The Torah, which is handwritten, is in a scroll. It's put away in a very specific place and brought out when it's needed. And I dare say there'll be other faith paths who do the same thing. So the word becomes the living word. It becomes more than just words on a page. It becomes something that is living. In fact, in the Jewish faith, there's many rituals and ceremony and acts. I know one of which, when there is somebody who's passed away, a group of people gather. Now, they have a set amount of people who support the person that's left behind. And if there's not enough people, the Torah can represent another person. It is held into such high regard. So, communicating with words. We communicate often without words, through facial expressions, physical contact, and body language. And in our silence, the things we don't say and the things we do say. These are led through our thoughts and emotions, which carry through our physical means of communication. Quite often, we all know when someone walks into a room what sort of mood they're in. They carry that energy with them. I think sometimes you don't even need to look to feel someone who is projecting their mood. I can attest to that when my boss comes in through work in a bad mood. I know when it's in a bad mood, it's projecting that. But similarly, when people are in a good mood, they seem to exude that, and that is infectious, and everybody is carried along with it. So I see that in all my meetings, and whether it be work or not. I personally believe that the written word is a poor communication tool. It is subject to language, dialect, colloquialisms, multiple meanings. It is also a slow delivery system in which the methodology takes time to digest and interpret. This is why you can have books that are so long and so thick, but may actually present not a very long story, or vice versa. As the saying goes, a picture paints 1,000 words. So if you were to look at a picture, you could write many, many paragraphs or a whole book on one picture. And this is why we can have a whole dissertation on a piece of art. So I find that very interesting. It's all down to how you view the picture, what's happening within, and what pictures you conjure up in your mind, and how you relate to it. This is also why people with good imagination can create such great stories. They picture it in their mind and spend the rest of their time writing it out or relaying it in a story. If we were able to have a glimpse of someone else's thoughts, we would know all about them in an instant. Many years ago, me and my wife, Teresa, had an extraordinary experience. One day we were both relaxing, having general conversation, but there was a momentary lull in our conversation where we both went quiet. In this moment, I had what I can only describe as a vision, and it was of me at some point in the future delivering some words or preaching to a few people in a building somewhere. It seemed to be over quite quickly, but it left a lasting impression. And at this point in my life, I had no inclination of preaching or public speaking, and for that matter. So it seemed a little odd to me. But we both looked at each other and realizing that we were both experiencing something out of the ordinary, and we swapped our experience of what had just happened. It was to both our surprise when we relayed the same details, and it was then that we realized that we had just had some kind of vision. It took many years before that vision came true. But just like I am standing before you today, it did come true. It did come to fruition. So that was something beyond words, but it was something experienced at the very same time. It was something very hard to really form into words, into something that you can believe or connect or scientifically prove. So there's been a lot of research into psychokinesis and telepathy and remote viewing. It is a branch of science which is not fully conclusive, but it doesn't mean to say it's not real. The film, The Men Who Stare at Goats, with George Clooney, I don't know if you've seen it. If you've not, I would recommend it. Very funny. But it is based on a congressionally funded program that trained officers in remote viewing and paranormal skill that supposedly allows a person to see a target despite the restrictions of space and time. The program was started by the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, in 1972. The American and UK governments have also funded research into telepathy. So this is not something new, and it's something that we may struggle to come to terms with, but obviously any advantage that the government was going to gain, they were going to put research into. So who knows what the outcome of that is, because would they tell us? Probably not. These concepts are not new, but often dismissed as something new age and yet to be proved, although I think we have all experienced something in our lives which we could not quite explain. And so we often just put that down to maybe coincidence or just something we don't understand. And we never put a name to it because we don't officially scientifically have a name that can be totally proven. So another story I'm going to tell you now, which gives a similar kind of idea. So when my parents were having my brother, their first child, my dad was in the Navy. My mother went into labour, but of course in them days there were no such things as mobile phones. With my dad being at sea, he wasn't aware what was happening. He was aware that my mother was pregnant and the time scale, obviously, but he wasn't aware of the sequence of events, how she was feeling on a day-to-day basis. All he was aware of is of the fact that when he was to arrive back home, he would be a parent. But at the exact same time of my mother giving birth, my dad was descending a ladder on the ship. It became faint and fell off. He was taken onto the onboard doctors who, despite a few bruises, could not find anything wrong with him, and was a bit perplexed as to why he had become faint. The doctor found out that my mother had given birth and berated my dad for not telling him, because the doctor knew that there was a non-physical link between the parents that could mean they share some of the symptoms. Today it has a particular name for it, which is called Covard syndrome, if I've pronounced that right. There's a particular name for it, so that phenomenon is known. Again, we probably can't prove it scientifically, but it is something that exists. I believe that the energy which we carry with us every day becomes a communication tool to everyone we meet, both in physical and non-physical terms. And we are affected, we affect each other, often without realizing it. This is why it is in our own best interest to be the best version of ourselves at all times. Be happy, be positive, and be supportive to everyone we meet, as each interaction tells a story which goes on to the next person they meet, and so on, just like a ripple in a pond. We can spread good news or bad news, make the environment we live in one of hope and appreciation, or not. The choice is totally ours. In this way of looking at communication, we could say that we are the living word. We are ourselves the living word. So on that, we go to our next hymn. I set my soul some truth to win. So I offer a few words now. We give thanks for the words we have heard and connected with, the understanding that we are still the living word, and that life is seen through us as we perceive it. We go in the knowledge that we can give our peace in many different ways, and may we carry this with us as we go. So somebody would like to now distinguish candles?
I do. I thought that was your job.
Thank you all. And hopefully that gives you some different perspective and points of view on the living word.
Thank you for